is a really special handbag. My husband gave it to me for my birthday 3 years ago. I remember unwrapping it, intrigued to see how it was packaged, enjoying reading all the labels that came with it, admiring the bag itself and how beautifully it's made. What might surprise you is that I'm not usually that interested in handbags. It's the story that sits around this one that's so special. The company that made this bag was set up with the aim of diverting waste from landfill. They looked at what waste was going to landfill and how they could use that to make products people would buy. This bag is made from woven black leather offcuts. It's lined with reclaimed parachute silk, and the handles and base are made from decommissioned fire hose. And as well as diverting waste from landfill, the company does lots of other things that have a positive impact. For example, they make sure that everyone who works for the company throughout their supply chain has decent working conditions and is paid a good wage. And they donate half their profits to charity. I clearly remember the first time I heard about this business, and I remember thinking, wow, that's beautiful. I know that might sound a bit weird if you're not someone who spends all your time thinking about impact like I do, but to me, this business is perfectly formed. It's financially sustainable because it's selling products people want and are willing to pay a fair price for. It's operating in a way that means that all the people who it works with want to keep on working with it. And through the products that it makes and sells, it's tackling a massive global problem. Doing good and being financially successful are perfectly integrated. They complement each other and reinforce each other. The better the business does, the more waste is diverted from landfill, and the more money goes to charity. To me, that is beautiful. The company that made this bag is a successful growing business that has strong ethics integrated into what it does and how it does it. What if every business was like this? I believe this is the future of business. Businesses that are commercially successful and also kind to people and the planet. We all have the power to make this a reality. The change is happening, but it's not happening fast enough. And today I'm going to share 2 simple things we can all do to accelerate the transition. There's a lot that's broken in the world. I believe we have a moral responsibility to tackle these challenges, and we have to tackle them if we're going to survive as a species. Having spent over 15 years working on impact in charities and in businesses, I'm convinced we all have a role to play. Individuals, charities, governments, businesses. Businesses have a particularly powerful role because they're financially sustainable and internationally scalable. Think about large global food and drink manufacturers. They have products in remote villages in countries all around the world. Imagine what they could do with that level of reach. To achieve the level of change the planet needs, we need businesses to be addressing impact as a core part of their strategy. It can't be a bolt-on on the side or a compliance box-ticking exercise. Instead, I'd like you to imagine a business that is actively trying to ensure the world is better because they exist. A business that has doing good integral to who it is, baked into what it does and to how it does it. If you chop them down the middle, doing good would be there at their core, running right through them, like the lead inside a pencil. This change is happening. Businesses are changing. We are on the edge of a radical transformation, and the businesses that grab hold of that opportunity will be the leaders of the future. I'd like you to think of a business, maybe the business where you work, or one in your local community. Now, I'm going to share what I call the spectrum of good, and I'd like you to think about where that business sits. You might not know the answer to this right now, especially if you're not that closely involved with the business. You might need to go away and do a bit of research. You could have a look at their official communications channels, their website, any sustainability reports they've published, their social media channels. Don't just take their word for it, though. It can be really helpful to have a look at what other people are saying about them. A quick internet search can sometimes flag things they're choosing not to tell you about. On the left-hand side of the spectrum, we have traditional businesses. They're focused on internal measures of success. They tend to turn a blind eye to some of the damage they're doing. For example, the working conditions within their supply chain, or the damage caused to the planet by the products they produce. The early part of my career was at this end of the spectrum, driving down costs, minimizing taxes, ignoring the ripple effects of the business, not always treating people kindly. Moving along the spectrum, we have businesses that are making changes where these make obvious financial sense. For example, they might take steps to reduce their electricity use, because this saves costs as well as being good for the planet. The next part of the spectrum is where we see a crucial mindset shift within the business. The leadership believes in the benefits of becoming a genuinely responsible business, and they've committed to evolving the business. They're at the beginning of the journey, and their focus is likely to be on being less bad, addressing elements of their business that have negative social or environmental impact. Becoming a responsible business is a journey, and the aim of many businesses is to get to a point where they shift from being less bad to doing no harm. Social and environmental impact are increasingly important considerations in all their decisions. Some businesses, like the one that made my handbag, go beyond this. They believe that financial success and doing good can be integrated and can reinforce each other, and they generate a profit to fuel the impact they can have. I asked you to think of a business. Where is it on that spectrum? Where would you like it to be? To achieve the level of change the planet needs, we need businesses to move from the left to the right. There are over 300 million businesses in the world. Imagine if every single one of them took a tiny step to reduce their negative impact and increase their positive impact. Imagine if they took a big step. There's been a lot of talk about this, but we aren't moving fast enough. I think we could move a lot faster if we all do two simple things. Lots of people have told me they're worried that becoming more sustainable or more responsible is expensive and will take lots of time. These two things you can do are free, and they don't take time. And every single one of us can help businesses move from the left to the right by doing these two things. They are deceptively simple, they don't take time, and they don't cost money. These two things are the questions we ask and the stories we tell. These apply to every single one of us. If you're a leader within business, then you might be able to make a difference faster, but you don't have to be a leader. Every single one of us can influence businesses by doing these two things. For example, as a customer or as an employee. The questions we ask send a message. They tell businesses what's important to us, especially when we're asking those questions to help us make decisions. Business leaders can change the culture of an organization very quickly by changing the questions they ask. I remember a meeting I had with the CEO, presenting plans for my team for the forthcoming year. They didn't want to know about the strategy or the context. All they wanted to know was, where's the money coming from and how quickly? Well, that gave me a really clear message about their priorities. Contrast this with the leadership team I worked with. One of the ladies on the team was brilliant at bringing a different perspective into the room. She'd often ask how a decision would impact the lowest paid staff, or how it might be perceived by them. Her perspective was respected, and it often affected the final decision. Her questions had a powerful impact on the culture of the team and of the organisation. This is a party popper. Have you ever popped one of these? We used to have them on the table at Christmas time. And when it comes to single-use plastic, these things are about as bad as it gets. Every year, my granny would look at the little plastic canisters, and she'd ask, "What can we use this for?" Granny was born in 1918. She was of a generation that reused things, mended them, made do. She couldn't bear the idea of these little plastic containers being thrown in the bin. Could we turn them into Christmas tree decorations? They look like little bells. Or could she put them on the top of bamboo canes in the garden to make them more visible so she wouldn't keep on tripping over them? Some businesses are asking similar questions about the waste they produce. Instead of just seeing it as waste, they're asking what value it could have to them or to others. For example, they're using carbon dioxide emissions to grow tomatoes, or the heat from server farms to warm local homes. By asking a different question and looking at waste in a different way, they're generating new revenue streams and reducing their environmental impact. And this isn't just about the questions business leaders ask. Every single one of us can influence businesses by changing the questions we ask. Businesses need employees and suppliers and customers to survive. A business that doesn't listen to these key stakeholders won't be here in 10 years' time. Maybe you can think about a decision you made recently and the questions you asked yourself or others. I was recently asked to speak at a conference. It was overseas, and it would have involved me flying, and I felt quite uncomfortable about that. Would the benefit to the attendees and to me be worth the carbon emissions? Did they really need me? Or was there someone who lived closer to the conference venue who could deliver similar content, similar value? After asking various questions of the conference organizer, I decided to say thanks, but no thanks. Hopefully, me asking those questions might prompt the conference organizer to think differently in future. Or me sharing that story on social media or with you today might influence someone else's decision-making. When was the last time you asked your employer a question about something important to you? I was speaking with a head teacher. Lots of their staff have been asking what the school's doing to tackle climate change and to become more sustainable. It's encouraging them to move faster than they might have otherwise. When was the last time you asked about a product or service you were buying? Some of the questions you could ask are, how do I recycle or repair your products? Who manufactures your products? What are their working conditions? Or when it comes to your pension and other financial investments, you could ask where your money's being invested. What businesses and industries is it supporting? Every single one of us can ask questions. By doing so, we show businesses that we care, and we can encourage them to change. Every single day, we choose what to talk about, what stories to tell. Let's look back at the story I chose to tell at the beginning of this talk. I could have chosen to start by telling you how our current ways of living and doing business are destroying the planet and causing mental health issues and huge inequality. Instead, I chose to start by sharing a story that I hoped would inspire you, get you thinking about an alternative future, get you asking, what if? The stories we tell people what we care about, and they can influence behavior. When business leaders call out the teams that have worked together to reduce water usage or save electricity, they send a message that collaboration and sustainability are important. When employees post on social media about how proud they are to work for an organization that's done something special, to recognize them as an individual and to support them, they show that this is important to them. When customers advocate for a brand because they love what it's doing to support the local community, they show that they care about this. I recently met with a prospective client. I hadn't met them before, and so I dressed up smartly. I was wearing this blouse. Early on in the meeting, one of the ladies commented that she liked my top. I explained that I'd bought it second-hand from the local charity shop, and that I get almost all my work clothes there. It was a spontaneous moment of connection. And when I thought about it afterwards, I realized that that simple act of storytelling had told them far more about me and my values than any formal slide deck could. What stories are you telling at the moment? Think about the last story you told a friend or that you shared on social media. What message are you sending? The questions we ask and the stories we tell. Neither of these things takes time. Neither costs money. And every single one of us can do these two things. Remember that business I asked you to think about. Where is it on the spectrum of good? Where would you like it to be? You have the power to change it. And together, we can create a ripple effect. And we can change the story of our planet through the questions we ask and the stories we tell. Thank you.